Hi everyone, welcome back. I'm Leo. Today let's talk about something I personally think is super practical for everyone. Yes, everyone. Even your cat or dog, especially your cat. They're always plotting something. I bet you've all heard of The Art of War, right? At first glance, this book is about war and tactics, and you might think, okay, what does that have to do with us regular folks? But that's totally not the case. The Art of War is indeed a book on warfare, but it's not just for fighting battles. It can be used in business too. So guys like Bill Gates has even admitted that one of their favorite books is The Art of War. Why? Simple. The business world is just like a battlefield. And even if you're not in business, no worries. This book can also be used in relationships. So if your significant other keeps stealing the blankets, you can turn to this book for some solution. Think about it. At its core, war is about human relationships. You're not fighting rocks or trees, unless you're really bad at gardening, maybe. Whenever there's a battle, you are fighting people. So a book that teaches you how to fight a war is actually teaching you how to handle relationship problems, just maybe in more extreme situations. Extreme situations like deciding whose turn it is to do the dishes tonight. If you run into some really tricky relationship issues, maybe someone's attacking you, slandering you, setting you up, or just tormenting you, this book has answers for you. Sun Tzu was a thinker and military strategist from the spring and autumn period, roughly about 771 to 476 BC in China. He wrote The Art of War around 500 BC. So when Sun Tzu wrote The Art of War, he was only in his 20s. And get this, he hadn't even been in a battle yet. He was living as a farmer in the deep mountains of the state of Wu, which is an ancient Chinese state, working the fields and writing this incredible book. He probably used his chickens as opposing armies, much lower casualty rate, and you get breakfast. Strategic win-win. So later, people speculated that maybe he just loved studying ancient military history books, and by poring over those old war stories, he managed to summarize everything into the art of war. He wasn't some kind of undefeated war god, writing based on his own battle experience. Instead, he was a farmer who simulated war scenarios and wrote the book based on that. When Sun Tzu was 32, he was introduced to the state of Wu and presented The Art of War to the king of Wu. The king of Wu read it and was like, wow, immediately calling him a genius and quickly inviting him out of the deep mountains. Ever since they had Sun Tzu, the state of Wu became super powerful. Nobody could beat them. But later, the king of Wu got a bit cocky, didn't listen to Sun Tzu's advice, and as a result, lost battles and eventually get his head chopped off. So after the king of Wu died, Sun Tzu went back home and continued farming. And that's pretty much how his life ended. But the art of war lived on. So now, about 2,500 years later, no other book has surpassed it. It's that good. Throughout these 2,500 years, whenever China fought a war, they basically referred to the art of war. Like in the Warring States period, after the spring and autumn period, and also the Three Kingdoms period. They all relied on it for fighting. Let's get to today's main point. The Art of War has a total of just over 6,000 characters. If you read it, you can probably finish it in half an hour. It's short, not because there's little content, but because it's all pure substance. All killer, no filler. There are no stories, no case studies. It just tells you directly how to fight a war. Every single sentence is super important. And because of this, the book can be a bit hard to understand. And today I will try my best to explain it to you in the simplest way possible. I hope you can all become tactical masters in your own lives. So this book has a total of 13 chapters, and they are laying plans, waging war, attack by stratagem, tactical dispositions, energy, weaknesses and strengths, maneuvering, the variation of tactics, the army on the march, terrain, the 9 situations, the attack by fire, the use of spies. Doesn't make much sense, right? That's okay. The names aren't that important. And if you try to read it in this order, you might even get more confused. I think it's better if we adjust the order. Actually, the most important part of this book is the 3rd chapter, Attack by Stratagem. It contains a lot of idioms that are familiar to everyone. For example, that super classic phrase, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will never be defeated. 知己知彼，百战不殆. Nowadays, many people misquote it as know yourself and your enemy, and you will win every battle. But what Sun Tzu said was 百战不殆, which means never be defeated. It means if you know yourself and your enemy, no matter how you fight, you won't lose. So Sun Tzu, this guy, he really emphasized not losing. It's not that winning isn't important, but not losing is even more crucial. My dating strategy, basically, can't get rejected if you don't ask anyone out. Flawless. Not losing includes drawing with your opponent, and it also includes not fighting a war at all. Sun Tzu's core idea is to avoid fighting whenever possible, because as long as a war breaks out, there are no true winners. So the core of warfare isn't about how to fight, but how not to fight. You know what? Out of the 13 chapters of The Art of War, it feels like about 10 are talking about how not to fight. A military book like this, why is it so conservative? It's like a cookbook where most chapters are about why you should order takeout. Actually, it's because during the spring and autumn and warring states periods, if you lost a battle, it meant death. It didn't matter how many enemies you killed, because there were countless enemies. But you only have one head. If you lost, your life was gone. That's why Sun Tzu emphasized never be defeated, not win every battle. In other words, Sun Tzu wasn't teaching you how to kill people. He was teaching you how to protect yourself. Isn't that true in real life too? Protecting yourself is the most important thing. Learning a bunch of killing techniques is completely useless. The most important thing is not to be bullied by others. If you can do that, you're amazing. That's why I say the art of war is super practical. So that phrase, know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated, actually has more to it. The full quote is, know yourself and your enemy, and you will never be defeated. Know yourself, but not your enemy, and you will win one battle for every loss. Know neither yourself nor your enemy, and you will be defeated in every single battle. So if someone wants to pick a fight with you, don't be impulsive. First, observe, gather information, prepare for the fight, and don't engage easily unless it's absolutely necessary. It's the same for two countries. Once a war starts, it's a loss for both sides, and it's easy for a third party to take advantage of the situation. So not fighting is good for everyone. In knowing yourself and your enemy, knowing your enemy is especially important. Knowing yourself is relatively easy. So how do you know your enemy? The answer is in the last chapter, the use of spies. So let's talk about spies. There are 5 types of spies. 阴间, local spies. 内奸, internal spies. 反间, converted spies. 死奸, doomed spies. and 生煎, surviving spies. Local spies are using ordinary people from the enemy country as spies. These spies are easy to conceal, and you can have a lot of them, but they might not gather very useful information. Internal spies are enemy officials. They can get accurate and useful information, but there's a high chance of exposure. Converted spies are using the enemy's spies and turning them into your own spies, just like you see in movies like Mission Impossible. Doomed spies are people we send to the enemy and spread false information. If they get caught, they're as good as dead. They don't need to come back. Actually, the easiest one to pull off is the local spy. Give some money to ordinary people in the enemy country, and maybe they'll help you collect information. Of course, we'll use spies, and the enemy will use too. So how do you prevent the enemy from gathering information about us? The answer is in the first chapter, laying plans. There's a classic line there. 兵者，诡道也，故能而示之不能，兵不厌诈. Warfare is the way of deception. Therefore, when capable, display incapacity. When active, inactivity. It means that whenever there's war, it's all about deceiving each other. You absolutely cannot let the enemy know your real situation. If you are capable, you have to pretend you are not. Information must never be leaked to the enemy. All warfare is based on deception. Once the enemy knows your battle plan, you're screwed. No matter how strong you are, it's useless. So, doing everything possible to understand the enemy's information and strength, while also doing everything possible to prevent the enemy from knowing our information and strength. This is the key to winning, or rather, not being defeated in war. And even if you don't have strength, don't be scared. The attack by stratagem chapter has methods for that too. Therefore, the rule is, if 10 times the enemy's strength, surround them. If 5 times, attack them. If double, divide them. If equal, you can engage. If fewer, be able to retreat. If no match at all, be able to avoid them. So if you see 1 seagull, you can probably take it. If you see 10 seagulls eyeing your sandwich, avoid, avoid, avoid. They work as a unit. Terrifying. They've read The Art of War, or at least the chapter on energy. In the Attack by Stratagem chapter, there's another classic line. To win 100 victories in 100 battles is not the acme of skill. To subdue the enemy without fighting is the acme of skill. Meaning, winning every battle is not as good as winning without fighting. So the fundamental idea of the art of war is that defeating the enemy without a war even happening, that's the best outcome. You have to rely on strategy. There's also the supreme excellence is in breaking the enemy's resistance without fighting. The next best is breaking the enemy through alliances. The next best is attacking the enemy's army. The worst policy is to attack walled cities. If you absolutely have to fight, the best strategy is to win through planning and strategy. It's the same in life. If someone attacks you or bothers you, they definitely have a goal. First, understand their goal. If you neutralize the goal, you don't have to fight. For example, if it's a misunderstanding, resolve it and you can still be friends. If the other person's goal isn't pure, maybe they just want to steal something from you, then attack through alliances. Divide their strength while building up your own. For example, undermining someone or poaching their people, spreading rumors to isolate them, turning their people into your own. This way, the other side might retreat without a fight. The next worst policy is direct confrontation. The absolute worst is attacking a place the enemy is strongly defending. That's basically just sending yourself to your death. Let's say you're a phone manufacturer and a competitor attacks you, spreading rumors. Don't rush to spread rumors back and counterattack. First, stay calm and make your phone better. The rumors might just fall apart on their own. And then wait for the right time to counterattack. Sun Tzu wasn't a weak person. He emphasized that if you're not fighting, don't fight. But if you do, deliver a decisive blow to the enemy immediately. Wait until the competitor's phone has a problem, like the battery exploding. Then unleash a barrage of bombardment and vent all your past grievances. So how do you attack the enemy? The 6th chapter, Weaknesses and Strengths, talks about this. This chapter is mainly about adapting to changes on the battlefield. There's a famous saying, military formation is like water. The nature of water is to avoid heights and flow downwards. The nature of an army is to avoid the strong and strike the weak. Meaning, using military force should be like water. Don't attack where the enemy is strong. Specifically look for their weak points and hit them there. Also like me trying to find the shortest checkout line at the supermarket. Avoid the families with a full cart. Strike for the self-checkout with only 3 items. The core idea is, don't brandish your large sword in front of Guan Yu. So Guan Yu is a famous warrior from Chinese history, meaning showing off in front of an expert. It's like bringing a knife to a gunfight, or trying to out-sing Adele at karaoke. If the enemy is strong in a certain area, don't conflict with them in that area. In the final stage of war, the chapter Maneuvering says, don't press a desperate foe too hard. This is the art of war. When the outcome is already decided, don't push people into a corner. In China, there's a famous idiom, 置之死地而后生, meaning forcing someone into a desperate situation can make them fight harder. Basically saying, if put someone in a deadly spot, and they will fight their way out. If you push the other side too hard, they'll definitely counterattack fiercely, and that's no good for you. The goal of war is to persuade the enemy to surrender, turn them into your own soldiers, so you can use them later. It's not about slaughter. You can't kill all the enemies. Reconcile and recruit them as much as possible. Unity is the goal. What you see in many movies, cutting the grass and removing the roots, that's not the way of warfare. That's just out of hatred. So the art of war is really beneficial for world peace. It's not about invasion at all. I think everyone should read The Art of War. If everyone read it and learned how to defend themselves, where would there be any wars? Then world peace achieved, except with seagulls. Those guys never read the book. So that was a brief introduction to The Art of War. If you are interested, we can make a next video for a more detailed explanation. I'm Leo, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.